Hi, welcome to part 2 in my Learning TDD web series. In today's video I'll be demonstrating how to set up a TDD environment in Visual Studio 2008 with the NUnit testing framework and test-driven.net, which is a free add-in for Visual Studio supporting integration of NUnit and also providing the NCover code coverage tools. I'll be using C# as the preferred language. To demonstrate TDD, we'll be writing a small sample application that will have basic mathematical operations. We will see the discipline of the TDD cycle, which in my first video I explained this as creating the test first, making the test fail, passing the test, and refactoring. So again, this is really just to get you working with the tools and understanding this small initial 4-step process of TDD. Firstly, you'll need to go and download and install the NUnit framework from www.nunit.org. And secondly, download and install the test-driven.net personal version from test-driven.net. NUnit is the unit testing framework we use for writing and running the tests. Test-driven.net integrates NUnit into Visual Studio, though you can still use NUnit without test-driven.net, which I'll show you how later on. Test-driven.net also installs NCover. NCover is a utility for producing coverage reports from your test results. A coverage report will show us what areas of code we've tested and what's not tested, and we can explore a breakdown of the coverage results to see what classes and methods and lines of code are being covered or not, and I'll be showing you a demonstration of this later on. Now let's get started with the example application. We're going to begin by creating a class library project for the math library we're going to be implementing. I'm going to call this tddexample.math. I'm also going to be creating another project to store all of our unit tests, and I'm going to call this tdexample.math.tests. My test project will be using the NUnit framework, so I'll go ahead and add a reference to the NUnit framework assembly. Find that in program files, 64-bit machine, NUnit, bin.net framework, and it's the NUnit framework.dll we're after. We're also going to be using the code in the math project in this test project, so I'll go ahead and create a reference to that project. Okay, so now we need to begin thinking in the ways of TDD, and the TDD steps are as follows. We write a test, we make it fail, we make it pass, and we refactor. So write a test. Well, the first thing the math library is going to have is a simple calculator. This calculator will have a method, sum, that will add simply two numbers together and return the result. So I need a test that will verify that sum is adding the two numbers correctly. So let's write the test. Now, I'm going to be using fully qualified names for the NUnit framework, so you can clearly see what is an NUnit specific point in my code. You can add this to the using block if you like. So test methods need to be decorated with this NUnit attribute test and this attribute basically tells the NUnit framework that this is a method containing a test, and we will see this running through the NUnit GUI tool later on. Also, this should sum two numbers correctly description basically describes what we're going to be testing for. You should really try to name all of your tests in a way that describes the expected behavior of the unit you're testing. So beginning methods with should or shouldn't is a great way of training your way of thinking to TDD. So let's go ahead and write the code for the test. You can see here now that I'm taking a result from the sum method on the calculator object and then using this result and testing it with the NUnit assertion method r=. There's many types of assertion tests in the assert object, such as r=, r not equal, greater than and less than, etc. The first parameter to the r= method is the expected result, which in this case r2 plus 3 should equal 5. And the second parameter being the actual result we got back that we're checking. So step 1's complete, we've written a test, and it's pretty obvious that when I try and compile this though, I'm going to be getting compile errors, because the code obviously for the calculator object doesn't exist yet. So step 2 of TDD is the make it fail. So we're going to be writing just enough code to get the test compiling. We're not even worried at this stage of making the test pass. So let's go ahead and create the calculator object in the math library. Now, I should be able to compile this project without any errors. So our next step is now seeing this test failing with the NUnit GUI tool. And there are two ways really that we can run the test in the project. We can right click on the test project and use the testdriven.net plugin to launch NUnit and see the test that's found in our testing assembly. And to do that, I simply right click on the project, choose test with NUnit 2.5. So this is now the NUnit tool with my loaded test assembly and the test on the left hand side of the test that it's found inside the assembly that I earlier marked with the test attribute. So another way without the testdriven.net tool is if I just close NUnit, I can run NUnit by itself, which I'm just going to launch over here. Okay, it's reloaded my last project. If I just close that project. Okay, if you just launched NUnit by itself, you would have no assembly loaded in the left here. So what we could do is file, open project, and then we would search for, let's have a look in my Visual Studio 2008 projects, and to the example, math tests, my bin folder, and I would open up this TD example math test DLL. And there we have now the should sum two numbers correctly test in the panel on the left hand side there. All we have to do now is right click on our test here and just click run. And there we have our failing test. A nice bright red bar indicating the failure. So step 2 of our TDD process is done.